all-night society. I went camping by myself last June. I wanted to be alone for a few days. I drove to a state park and found a spot far away from the other campers. I hiked for 2 miles to a small clearing near a river. The weather was nice. I set up my tent and made a small fire. I ate some food and drank some water. Everything felt peaceful. I liked being in the woods. I felt safe. When the sun went down, it got very dark. There was no moon that night. I put out my fire and crawled into my tent. I got into my sleeping bag. I turned off my flashlight. It was very quiet. I could only hear the water in the river. I fell asleep for a little while. Then a noise woke me up. It was a snapping sound. It sounded like a dry branch breaking. I sat up in my sleeping bag. I stayed very still. I listened. I heard footsteps. They were slow and heavy. Crunch, crunch, crunch. They were walking on the dry leaves near my tent. I thought it might be a deer, but the rhythm was wrong. It sounded like a person walking on 2 legs. The footsteps circled my tent. They stopped right behind my head. There was only a thin layer of nylon between me and whatever was outside. I was too scared to move. I didn't want to make a sound. Then I heard a zipper. My backpack was sitting just outside the tent door. Someone was opening the small pocket of my bag. I heard them moving things around. I heard my metal spoon hit a rock. I grabbed my flashlight, but I didn't turn it on yet. My hands were shaking. I held my breath. Then I felt a heavy weight lean against the side of the tent. A person was sitting down right next to me. I could see the shape of a shoulder pressing against the tent wall. I heard a voice. It was a very low whisper. "Are you awake?" the voice said. I did not answer. I stayed perfectly still. I felt like I was going to throw up. My heart was beating so loud I thought the person could hear it. The person sat there for a long time. They didn't move. They just sat and breathed. After maybe 20 minutes, they stood up. I heard the footsteps walk away slowly towards the thick trees. I did not sleep for the rest of the night. I sat in the middle of the tent with my knife in my hand. When the sun finally came up, I unzipped the tent. My backpack was open. My clothes were pulled out and thrown on the ground. My car keys were sitting on a flat rock 5 feet away. They had been moved from my bag. I grabbed my keys and ran. I didn't pack my tent. I didn't pack my sleeping bag. I ran all the way to my car. As I was driving away, I looked in my mirror. I saw a man standing in the middle of the trail. He was wearing a dirty red jacket. He was just standing there, looking at my car. I went to the police, but they couldn't find him. I never went back for my stuff. I don't go camping alone anymore. It is not worth it. Last year, I went camping by myself. I chose a spot in the woods near the mountains. I wanted peace and quiet. I arrived at 3 in the afternoon. I set up my small green tent. I gathered some wood and started a small fire. The sun went down fast. The woods got very quiet. There was no wind. I sat by the fire and ate some bread and cheese. Then I heard a noise. It was a crunching sound. It came from the bushes behind me. I thought it was a deer. I turned my flashlight on. I saw 2 yellow eyes. The eyes did not move. They were low to the ground. I felt a chill on my neck. I stood up slowly. I picked up a heavy stick from my wood pile. Then I saw more eyes. There were 3 pairs of eyes now. They were circling my camp. I realized they were wolves. I had never seen a wolf in real life. These were big. I could hear them breathing. One wolf stepped into the light of my fire. It was gray and thin. Its teeth were showing. It made a low growl. The sound was deep. I felt very small. I reached for my bear spray in my backpack. My hands were shaking. The gray wolf barked once. Then it ran at me. It was very fast. I didn't have time to think. I pushed the stick out to keep it away. The wolf bit the wood. It shook its head side to side. It was very strong. It pulled the stick out of my hands. I fell backward. The wolf let go of the stick and bit my leg. I felt a sharp pain. It was like a hot knife. I screamed. I finally grabbed the bear spray. I pressed the button. A big cloud of orange spray hit the wolf in the face. The wolf stopped. It began to cough and sneeze. It ran away into the dark. The other eyes disappeared too. I didn't wait. I grabbed my keys and my flashlight. I left my tent and my sleeping bag. I ran back to my truck as fast as I could. I kept looking behind me. Every shadow looked like a wolf. I felt like I was being watched. I reached my truck and locked the doors. My leg was bleeding a lot. I drove 20 miles to the nearest hospital. The doctors gave me stitches and shots. They told me I was lucky to be alive. I still have the scar on my leg. It is thick and white. I do not go camping alone anymore. I don't think I ever will. I went camping alone last October. I drove 3 hours away to a place called Black Ridge. I like to be alone. I do it every year. I found a good spot near a small river. I set up my tent. I gathered some wood. Everything felt normal. It got dark around 6:30 p.m. I made a small fire and ate a sandwich. The woods were very quiet. There was no wind. I liked the silence. Around 9:00 p.m., I went inside my tent. I got into my sleeping bag. I turned on my flashlight to read a book. After 20 minutes, I heard a loud snap. It sounded like a thick branch breaking. It was close to my camp. I turned off my light. I sat very still and listened. I thought maybe it was a deer. But then I heard footsteps. They were slow. They sounded heavy. They sounded like a person walking on 2 legs. The footsteps stopped right outside my tent. I held my breath. My heart was hitting my ribs very hard. I looked at the side of the tent. The moon was bright, and it cast a shadow on the thin fabric. I saw the outline of a man. He was standing very close. He was tall. He was just standing there. He did not say anything. He did not move for a long time. I reached for my knife in my bag. My hands were shaking. Then the man started to walk around my tent. He walked in a slow circle. He did it 3 times. The crunch of the leaves under his boots was the only sound in the woods. Then he stopped again. I saw his shadow lean forward. His head was inches away from the tent wall. I heard him sniffing. He was smelling the air. Then he spoke. His voice was very dry and low. He whispered, "I know you are awake." I did not move. I did not make a sound. I was too scared to cry. Suddenly, I heard a metallic click. It sounded like a folding knife locking into place. My stomach felt cold. I knew I had to move. I grabbed my car keys from my pocket. I did not unzip the door slowly. I ripped it open and jumped out. I saw him. He was wearing a dirty red jacket. His face was pale. He had a long knife in his right hand. He looked surprised. I did not wait. I ran as fast as I could toward my truck. I dropped my phone didn't stop. I jumped into the driver's seat and locked the doors. I started the engine and turned on the high beams. The man was standing in the middle of my campsite. He wasn't running. He was just watching me. He waved his hand very slowly. I drove away. I hit rocks and branches, but I didn't care. I drove until I reached a gas station. I called the police. They went to the camp the next morning. My tent was still there. It was cut into many pieces. All my gear was ruined. The police never found the man. I do not go camping alone anymore. I still see his shadow on my bedroom wall when I try to sleep. I love being alone. Last October, I decided to go camping. I took my dog, Bear. Bear is a big German shepherd. He is good company, and he makes me feel safe. We drove 2 hours away from the city. I found a spot near a small river. There were no other people around. I did not have any cell phone service. It was perfect. I set up my tent. I chopped some wood and made a fire. Bear ran around and chased sticks. The language of the woods is usually nice. You hear birds and the water. But when the sun went down, it got very quiet. It got cold fast. I ate some dinner and gave Bear his food. Then we went inside the tent. I had a thick sleeping bag. Bear curled up at my feet. I turned off my flashlight and tried to sleep. At 2:00 a.m., Bear woke me up. He was not moving, but he was making a sound. It was a low growl deep in his chest. I sat up. The woods were dead silent. There was no wind. Then I heard it. A soft crunch on the leaves. It sounded like a footstep. It was very close. It was maybe 10 feet away from the tent. I held my breath. I felt my heart hitting my ribs. I thought it was a deer. I waited for more sounds. Then I heard a zipper. It was not my zipper. It was the sound of a zipper on a jacket. Someone was standing right outside. They were less than 3 feet away from my head. Bear stood up. The hair was sticking up on his back. He showed his teeth. I grabbed my small camping knife. My hands were shaking. I could not see who was out there. I only saw a dark shadow against the tent wall. It was the shape of a man. He was just standing there. I did not say anything. I did not want him to know I was awake. Then I heard a man's voice. He spoke very softly, almost like a whisper. "I know you are in there," he said. I felt sick. My skin went cold. I did not answer. I held Bear's collar. Bear began to bark. It was the loudest bark I have ever heard. He threw his body against the tent wall toward the man. He was growling and snapping his jaws. I heard the person run. I heard branches breaking. He was running fast into the deep woods. He did not have a flashlight. He was running in the dark. I stayed awake all night. I held my knife and sat with Bear. I did not turn on any lights. I was too scared to move. Every time a leaf moved, Bear growled. When the sun finally came up, I went outside. I looked at the ground. There were footprints in the dirt. The footprints circled my tent 3 times. I also found a cigarette butt on a rock near my door. It was still fresh. I packed my things in 5 minutes. I did not even fold the tent. I just threw everything into the back of my truck. I drove home and did not stop. I still go camping sometimes, but I never go alone anymore. I am very glad I have Bear.